Hey folks, this is Johnny. Welcome to another Home Studio Trainer Live, and today we got Studio 16 tips and tricks. So I've got a subject that really that a lot of people are interested in. The only thing I can offer, Neil Thompson, here's Johnny. The only thing that I can offer is my opinion on the whole subject, and is understanding the stereo mix. So it's important, at least from a listener standpoint, the difference between a mono mix and a stereo mix. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't address when they address mixing in stereo and mono. If you are mixing in mono and you're using stereo effects, is the mix mono? So I have 3 examples to show you. One example of mixing with regular stereo effects, but all of the channels up center. So technically, it's mono, except for the effects. Then there is another mix where it's all natural stereo. All of the drums are panned, and some of the instruments are panned, and we're gonna actually hear the different versions on that. And I am going to actually take both the non-panned mix and the stereo mix and hit the mono button on the main out. Now, believe it or not, all 3 and or 4 situations sound different. And it's important that you understand what the differences are. If you're mixing in mono, are you mixing in true mono? If you're mixing in stereo, are you mixing with stereo effects, or are you mixing with mono effects? So I'm going to try to go through all of the different examples as carefully as possible here. But really quick, I wanted to show you guys something cool. I went to a pawn shop today. Now, I have a ton of studio gear that I have to sell. Some of it I can't ship. I have a huge 88 key keyboard, and I have a number of other synth MIDI controller keyboards that I have to sell, but I could never sell to one of you guys here unless you lived in the area and wanted to come and pick it up. The one keyboard that I have to sell is about 60 pounds, and shipping that would cost more than the cost of the keyboard. So, if somebody's interested, that'd be great. But I will be posting all of the different things that I'm going to be selling and putting them up on the HST website. But, so I went to a pawn shop today to see what they would take, what they would sell, what they were interested in. And they weren't interested in any of the keyboard controllers. He says MIDI keyboards don't sell at all. And he's got a couple of them in there, complete control keyboards in there that he hasn't been able to sell for 2 or 3 years. Okay, but while I was there, I found this nifty little guy. This is a Mini Deluxe from Fender. And it is a little guitar amp. It's got the inputs and everything up on top. It runs on batteries. There we go. And it's got volume, tone, and drive. So it was only $25. I could not pass it up. So I brought it home and I hooked up my guitar to it, and it sounds pretty doggone cool. And I think I'm going to do a show where I do all of my guitars on this little guy because it has a direct out, which is neat, I think. It'll just be a fun show where we just go through and we get to see what kind of tones we can get with it. Just right out of the little speaker, it sounds pretty doggone good. But I had to show you that. I like to show the new toys. But about $25 is about all I can afford these days. A selfless Fender plug. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes, because Fender, and Personas are now the same thing. All right. Somehow my brain didn't link those two immediately, but there you go. All right. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for being here. We have 23 people in here, and we have 9 likes. Oh, come on, guys. Hit that like button. Hit the like button. I'd like to at least get as many likes as I have people in here, and there's 24 people in here now. So extremely cool. All right, so let's, without any hesitation, maybe I'll get some likes if you guys like the demo coming up. Yeah, right. See, Raymond's right. Only I can go to a pawn shop to buy something or to sell something and end up buying something. That's because I'm stupid that way, but that's okay. All right, so here's our song. This is the song I wrote for my mom's service. This is the version with Keela's voice. I don't have the version on here with my brother's voice, but I will be playing that for you at some point. All right, so here we go. So you can see over here that I have a couple of different mixes. I have the stereo mix and I have no panning. I didn't call it a mono mix because it is there are some stereo effects in it. All right, so let's go ahead and pull up the stereo mix. There we go. So now the drum kit has everything panned the way that it's supposed to. You guys can see that the little panning thing is moving there. And the bass is, it is a stereo sample that's done in Presence. Just like that. And I've got my two, let's see, they're rendered, or I should say transformed. These are my two Presence acoustic guitars. And then I have my two natural acoustic guitars, which I have panned left and right. And I have Keela's voice with my awesome Valhalla plugin.
You're now free as a bird. Take flight, that's the word now.
All right, so now if I go ahead and I play the stereo mix as it is, I want you guys to focus on the sound. And if you guys have headphones, even better. See if you can feel the separation that I have here. Everything is very wide. The drums are panned pretty good with the kick, the snare, and the bass all in the center, but everything else is panned for audience perspective.
You're now free as a bird. Take flight, that's the word now. No more will you have to feel any pain, because you are peaceful.
Thank you, Kyle, for letting me know that the Studio One mix was low.
The way it should be. There is a time, there is a place where we both will be right back together again, my love.
All right, so that is the stereo mix. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my other scene, and this one is labeled no panning, and it's got a mono drum kit. Same drum kit, just everything mono. Just like that. And it has no panning whatsoever anywhere. However, the effects, since they're going through buses, they are all stereo. So now here is the mix, the no panning mix with stereo effects.
You're now free as a bird. Take flight, that's the word now. No more will you have to feel any pain, because you are peaceful at last, because you are free from the past. You're with your mom now, the way it should be.
All right, so now I want you to hear the mix with the mono button hit on the main outs. Now everything is completely mono and it does sound different.
You're now free as a bird. Take flight, that's the word now. No more will you have to feel any pain. Because you are peaceful at last. Because you are free from the past. You're with your mom now, the way it should be. There is a time.
There you go. So all three sound a little bit different. So one of the discussions I got into with somebody at one time was the fact of not panning any instruments but using stereo effects, and he swore by it. All of his songs were like that. This is a client from a couple of years ago. I don't have any of his material on this computer at all, but I couldn't play it anyway because he's got a copy written. But I thought it was interesting that he really took to the fact, don't pan anything, don't confuse people, don't do anything like that, and just keep the effects in stereo. All of his songs sounded fantastic. They really sounded good. But, there were still some points that I thought, man, if you spread out those drums and you pan those two awesome guitars, it would sound so much better. But he wouldn't do it. It was just the way he wanted to mix. He didn't hit the mono button like I just did here. But all of his panning positions that you see at the top here were in the center like this song is right now. So the only thing that's actually coming through as stereo here is my buses, or are my buses. So I've got some effects on those, and those are coming through in stereo. There's also the vocal track by Keela. That is panned up front, but the reverb, but the channel itself is in stereo, even though it's a mono track. So hopefully all of this is making sense. So once again, here's the stereo mix right here.
You're now free as a bird. Take flight, that's the word.
And what I'm going to do is when it reaches the chorus, I'm going to immediately switch it to the no panning version.
Because you are peaceful at last. Because you are free from the past. You're with your mom now, the way it should be.
There's the mono out.
There is a time.
Let's go back.
There is a place where we both will be right back together again, my love. Because you are peaceful at last.
Okay, so. Great comments over on Wix and Leon and Rebecca and Joseph, a new member over there on Wix. They all three say, wow, what a difference. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, if you watch my mouse closely, I'm going to go from the stereo mix to the no panning mix to the absolute mono mix, just in succession, and see if you can hear the changes. Kyle Jedruziak says, I generally keep the Vox snare, kick, bass straight down the middle unless doing something special. Yes, that's how I mix too. All right, so one more time, and I'm just going to go ahead and slowly go through the three phases of this mix in stereo, no panning, and then true mono. Ready? Here we go.
You're now free as a bird. Take flight, that's the word now. No more will you have to feel any pain. Because you are peaceful at last. Because you are free from the past. You're with your mom
still feel the true stereo with everything panned stereo effects mix is the strongest. It just fills my headphones. Secret Squirrel says, do you happen to have a Sphere subscription? No worries if not. I'm not quite sure if he's having an issue with his. I have a Sphere subscription that I pay every month. So I don't know, because there were some people that were having a problem with payments, but we can discuss that later. All right. What do you guys think? Let's see. Charlie Dillon says the Vox can get cluttered with too much panning. Just a little, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I would think, now since I have the mix pretty static, the only thing changing is the panning. You could probably adjust that vocal. Well, not probably. You could adjust that vocal to have it cut through. So I'm not quite sure that I'm not quite sure that it's cluttered, but that's a good point. Paul Curtis actually says you have the Vox mono down in the middle with harmonies panned. Correct. In the stereo mix, which I am going to pull up here, the backup vocals are stereo left and right along with the lead.
From the past, you're with your mom now, the way it should be. There is a time, there is a place where we both will be right back together again, my love, because you are peaceful.
Ooh, that's nice. Nice little acoustic version.
From the past, you're with your mom now, the way it should be.
Okay, so for the stereo version, the drums are being panned. This is to answer Kevin's Guitar Stories questions. The kick, snare are in the center. I have the toms going from left to right. I have the overheads, which are essentially in impact, are the cymbals. And so all of the drums for the stereo mix are being panned everywhere. For the mono mix, everything is up mono, but the little reverb that's on the mono drums is in stereo. And actually, as is, I realized that the strings are still stereo. Let's see here. I think. Yeah, the strings are still stereo in the mono mix. So let's fix that. Let's see. So what I needed was the binaural pan. So yeah, I didn't realize that the strings were still in stereo on the mono mix. Binaural pan, and then I'm going to hit the mono button. Okay, there we go. So now if I go to the mono mix again.
From the past.
Ooh, it didn't save. Hold on, let me actually do this. Binaural pan, mono button. And then I have to go ahead and update the mono scene. There we go. Perfect. Here we go.
You're with your mom now, the way it should be. There is a time, there is a place. We both
See, and I think things like the strings get buried in a mono mix as opposed to the stereo mix.
from the past. You're with your mom now, the way it should be.
There we go. So I think one of the things that we've learned here, is you really can't use the same fader settings for the stereo mix as you can the mono mix. So I think that each representation deserves its own mix. You see where I'm going with this? Hopefully you do. Hopefully you do. All right, Secret Squirrel says, am I the only one having intermittent issue hearing Johnny's voice? Really? Especially compared to his production project. Oh, yeah, I've got the volume on that turned way up because everybody said it was too loud. Or too low, I'm sorry. So, sorry about that, Secret Squirrel. I need to, stay in the mic so you guys can hear me. I'm having trouble with my voice. It's cutting out, and it drops in volume all by itself. So, okay, so let's see. I'm reading some of the comments here. Okay, Secret Squirrel, I believe, is looking for someone to record with. Paul Curtis says, did you record the acoustic twice or double it? I recorded the acoustic twice. This is 2 separate performances. And then, of course, for this part here with the backup vocals, you've got the lead and the 2 backup vocals.
There is a time.
God, that sounds good.
There is a place where we both will be right back together again, my love. Because you are peaceful at last.
Yeah, so you can really hear the differences. And yes, I agree, Kyle. I think that the secret to this, if you're going to mix in mono, you're not going to be able to use whatever stereo mix you came up with if you're going to end up putting that in mono, because each one, if you are just going to mono, the main outputs and everything, including the effects, are going to be mono. You have to have a separate mix for that. If you are just not going to pan the instruments, like in our mix 2 here, but the effects are going to be stereo, then that needs its own mix. Oh, I'm sorry, John Lake. I am, the version that my brother sang, and as soon as I get the other, get the files on this machine here, the version that my brother sang is just so awesome, and it was. Yes, yeah, everybody loved it at the service, so it was very cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you cry. But I have heard this song so many times, I just love listening to it. And I know Keela's voice, I didn't do any of the fancy stuff, making it sound more human. I just really like the way this sounds, just the way it is, and I really don't want to change it. So there you go. Let's see. Secret Squirrel says, no worries. I hope that your throat feels better. Yeah, it's really messed up today. But it was a long it was a long weekend, and I'm so glad that it's done. Man, I feel so much better. I really do. Now that a lot of the stress is done and we can move forward. Now I can focus on my wife, who isn't ill, but is going to need open heart surgery at some point. We don't know when, but so far she's okay. They found a blockage, and her condition doesn't allow for just the stint and things like that. So I'll let you guys know when that comes up, but I'm sure that will be a little bit different than than my mom's condition. So. All right, let's see. We have 26 people in here, and we have 24 likes. Yes, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that. All right, so let's see. So Damon over on Wix just wants to hear the 3 mixes one more time. All right, I'm just going to start at the verse. I'm going to keep the music up a little bit. I'll try not to make it too much louder. Then Raymond says, holy moly. Yeah, it never stops for me, Raymond. it just, it's just one thing after another. All right, so here's the song, 3 Conditions. We're going to start with the stereo mix, and then the no panning mix, and then the true mono.
You're now free as a bird.
Oh, oops. I monoed those and then I saved the mix. Hold on, update the scene. All right, try it again. Stereo.
You're now free as a bird. Take flight, that's the word now. No more will you have to feel any pain.
Well, that was bizarre. Did you see that? All of the mutes are off here, but they're not off here. I think that's because those are VST instruments. Okay, let's try this one more time. I need to update the scene. Back to stereo.
You're now free as a bird. Take flight, that's the word now. No more will you have to feel any pain. Because you are peaceful at last. Because you are free from the past. You're with your mom now, the way it should be. There is a time, there is a place where we both will be right back together again, my love.
Yeah, that mute. Gosh, that is such a pain in the butt. It really is a pain in the butt because the instruments mute different than the audio tracks do, and now I understand why it happens. It's because you can mute just the MIDI and keep the instrument unmuted, or you can mute just the audio and keep the MIDI unmuted, or you can. Yeah, right. So, but it makes sense, and the reason that it does that, is in case you are using a VST instrument with multiple outputs, such as impact. So sometimes you want to mute the whole MIDI performance, but yet keep a couple of other MIDI performances that might be using that same drum kit. Or you might want to mute the audio from the VST instrument. So it does make sense why. It's just that it really flubs me up. Yeah, it happened in version 5. It even happened in version 4. So, it's all the same. It's all the same. All right, let's see. Kyle Jedrusiak says, Free as a Bird was a John Lennon demo. The rest made into a full track. Yes, I think I've got that. CD somewhere. You can call me Ray, and you can call me Jay. Yes. Just don't call you late for dinner. Just don't call me Johnson. All right, so there you go. So there we go. Those are the examples that I wanted to give you guys, and I'd like to know what you guys think of it. So why don't we get into the Q&A? Call me anything but late for supper. Very cool. All right, here we are. HSD Studios. And then you guys over here in the chat, so you guys can actually see it. Howdy doodah. Jacob is here. Good to see you, Jacob. We have 26 people here, and we have 29 likes. Excellent. Excellent. Well, people cycle in and out during the course of a show, so that makes sense. So thank you guys for coming in. Oh yeah, this is what it looks like. Joseph over on Wix wanted to see the little Fender amp again, and I'm pretty sure it's kind of new. I don't know why it ended up in a pawn shop. It is called the Fender MD20. Fender MD20. So now you know what I got to do? I got to find it. So let's see. Let's look for the MD20. And there it is. There it is. Where is it? The Fender Mini Deluxe. All right, let me go ahead and give you guys a link to. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. Hold on. I am going to go here and I am going to give you guys a link. Test link. This product is extended. Oh, wow. I can't. Do not support direct linking to this product. Interesting. Interesting. I tried to look at it up on Amazon, but it won't let me do an affiliate link. Okay. Let's see if this works. Bam. All right, there is the very complicated link to it. Let's see, let's go over here. Oh, interesting. There you go. John Edgar is here. He says, can you talk about the use of the flanger in Studio One? Sure I can. What use in specific are you looking for? Because the flanger does many different things. You can get the flanger to do like a rotary effect. You can, yeah. So I suppose, since this is the Q&A, for instance, on our lead vocal,
You're now free as a bird.
we can actually add the flanger.
You're now free as a bird.
I can turn off the other effects. There we go.
You're now free as a bird.
This is what the flanger
Take
does.
flight, that's the word now. No more will you have to feel any pain. Because you are peaceful at last.
There's also a bunch of really good presets.
You're now free as a bird.
Here's more of
Take
a chorus.
flight, that's the word now. No more will you have to
Rick, yes, right now I'm using the flanger with the vocal.
You're now
But in my own projects and projects I've produced, no.
You're now free as a bird. Take flight, that's
That
the
sounds good.
word now. No more will you have to feel any pain. Because you are peaceful at last. Because you are free from the past. You're with your mom now. The way you should be.
So there you go. There's a little bitty sample of what the flanger has to offer. It was made really popular by John Lennon. The flanger. I even think he named it. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, Rick Grunt says, sorry, I started posting just before you started using it. Yeah. But no, it was a good question. You didn't have to delete it because I've never used it on a project. Sean White Jr. said, is there a difference between bypassing a plugin and turning it off in Studio One? Boy, that's a good question. Let's remove that.
You're now free as a bird. Take flight, that's the
All right, so here is Keela with the Valhalla plugin.
You're now free as a bird.
And if we use bypass.
Flight, that's the word now. No more will you have to feel any pain.
Or if we use the power button.
Because you are peaceful.
I guess the only way to really check that would be to see the CPU usage. All right, so let's look for the Valhalla plugin. There's only one instance of it here. Here's the Valhalla plugin. Oh, nope, that's not that one. Let me see if this one is it. Oh, it's this one at the bottom. So let's actually see what kind of CPU it uses,
You're now free as a bird.
which is almost nothing.
Take flight, that's the word now. No more will you have to feel any pain.
Oh, okay. Did you see that? Yes. So to answer your question, Sean, yes, there is a difference. Let me zoom in on this here. Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can get these close here. Watch this. So I want you to watch the CPU usage. If I just do bypass,
You're now free as a bird. Take flight, that's the word now.
it does.
No more.
It does change the CPU usage. But watch when I use the power button.
You're now free as a bird.
Totally shuts it.
Take flight, that's the word now. No more will you have to feel any pain.
Okay, so now the interesting part of this question is, which is better? And I think that if you use the power button, you are not going to use any CPU at all, as opposed to using the bypass, which you can see changes it. It does reduce the CPU usage, even though it's only by 1. But I don't know, boy. What a great question. What a great question. So yeah, there is a difference. There is a difference as far as what it does. It shuts off the plugin completely, but the bypass still drops any CPU usage. Of course, you'd have to use a bigger one to actually see a bigger plugin in order to see the real difference. Charlie Dillon says, I think the vocal is better glued in the no-pan stereo mix with the drums added, but sounds great in the full stereo mix without the drums. I guess it's a space thing. Yeah, you know what, Charlie? I think you're absolutely right. So here is the full stereo mix.
You're now free as a bird. Take flight, that's the word now. No more will you have to feel any pain.
And here's the no panic.
Because you are peaceful at last. Because you are free from the past. You're with your mom now, the way it should be.
Yeah, Rich. I know. He's after what few viewers I have left. Oh, yeah. He and I used to be such good friends. And he just screwed me at every turn. Oh, well. That's okay. I'm just glad you got his name wrong. There's a little dig in there for me. That's all right. Very cool. All right, very cool. We got 24 people in here and 31 likes. Thank you. Yeah, I did too. But there you go. So you've got the full stereo mix. You've got a stereo processing with mono channels, or not mono channels, with no panning. Let me get that right, with no panning. And then you have the full mono mix by hitting the mono button. There you go. Yeah, Raymond, don't worry about it. He screwed me out of a bunch of videos that I did, and I never got paid for them, so that's okay. All right, there you go. So, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? If you're watching this on replay, I would really like your opinions in the comments area on which mix you liked better. Did you like the full stereo spread? Did you like the no panning but stereo effects and processing, or did you prefer the mono mix? For me personally, I prefer the full stereo spread. Oh, and here's a couple of things I wanted to show you guys. So some of the more popular, actually that's not the one there. So some of the more popular panning options. This is basic panning right here. Pads. This would be like strings or whatever you want as far as left and right, like stereo. Stereo keyboards. You can see the hi-hat and the toms are panned, and the vox, the snare, the bass, and the kick are all in the center. The other one is this one, and this one is actually quite cool because for this one here, this kind of tells you how the panning traditionally is in an orchestral mix. So then you can put one on top of the other. And Raymond, I agree with you, Raymond. I'm a sucker for the stereo mix. I love the ear candy. And it's so funny because so many people don't like some of the Beatles mixes because you get the music on one side and the vocal on the other. I love those mixes. Capitol Records used to call it full dimensional stereo. I love those mixes because it's like looking, if you're at a concert, let me get back to here. If you're at a concert and you're watching the band on stage, for the most part, you're going to hear all of the little nuances from where they're actually standing on stage, and I really like that. So it kind of gives you a live feel when things are mixed well in stereo. But that's just me. That's just me. Rick Ron says, I always struggle with where to locate harmonies. I usually just do harmonies. If it's just a single harmony, I line it up with the lead vocal. Or I'll have the singer do the vocal twice and pan the two performances. Sometimes I'll clone the vocal, but that really doesn't come out as good. It just doesn't feel as live. So the two Keela voices here are two of the other presets for her voice. So it's actually 3 different performances to get the sound that I got.
From the past, you're with your mom now, the way it should be.
And that way it doesn't give you that car horn effect. All right, let's see. John Edgar says the artist duo of William Alexander and Bob Ross had their issues, which led to a parting of the ways. It happens all the time. Hard pill to swallow. Yeah. My parting with Mr. Vignola, we never really talked about it. We just stopped communicating, and he stopped paying me. Yet the videos that I did for the collection that he sells, I get people coming to me for those all the time. Hey, I saw you did a video with so-and-so, and that's why I'm contacting you. Yeah, that's how I found out. All right, see, Paul Curtis is panning overhead cymbals and panning drums and toms makes all the difference to me. I agree, totally. Sean White says, I'm going to experiment with slightly panning my soprano and alto with tenor sax at C as a choir would be on stage. Yeah, that would actually sound good, I think. I think that'll sound great, Sean. Just, and you don't have to do hard left and right. Some engineers, they do CLR. Center, left, or right. Nothing in between. Bobby Booth, who isn't here in the chat today, he and I are very much, and actually I got to say, I got this style kind of from him. taking certain things and just going 50-50. I mean, that's a really great compromise if you don't want everything on the far left and right. John Edgar says, what do you like best about using the Valhalla plugin? I love the presets. The algorithms are so similar to what Personas offers with their plugins, but there is just something about the presets for the Valhalla plugin. They are awesome. I don't know what just happened. There it is. Tried to move it over a little bit.
From the past, you're with your mom now, the way it should be.
So I usually just use, let's see, it's got a ton of presets. But I usually just use the Hydra presets and then go with some of the rooms and echoes. I don't really use the sound effects, which I'm sure sound great. I don't want to ruin this one. Maybe I'll do a deeper review with the Valhalla, but it's important to know that this is a free plugin. This is an absolutely free plugin. So very, very, very nice. I try to use the entire stereo space when I mix. That's Kyle Jedruziak, and I agree. Rick Ron says, sometimes I spread the harmonies slightly based on the voicing. Soprano, alto, yeah, that's actually a good idea, too. None in the same space. Right, exactly. All right, so making this voice nice and smooth here is now becoming painful, so I'm going to get going. Guys, thank you for coming in. We had 35 at one point. I really appreciate it. And hit that like button before I sign off if you haven't already. I really do appreciate it. And these are going to be my last few words. Later. It never fails.
Because you are an HST subscriber, you are automatically part of our Advantage program, enabling you to score great deals on Personas gear from Alps Media.